There is a new marathon ARG, and in this video, I'm going to get you up to speed as best I can. It all starts with this herearesilence.com website. And when you Control A on this website, you see this skull. That's a bit weird. You also see this, one voice, many herearesilence.com. When you go to this page, it says this: OBS breaks their chains, interact, log in, live or live. The system fears when many become one. Mida is watching, Mida is rising. And there's a login portal for your Twitch account, for you to authorize your Twitch login. Now, yesterday when this all started kicking off, when you did this and you were live streaming like I was and like, for example, Asdacross was, it would take you to a page that looked like this, but all of these symbols on all these lower rows wouldn't be there yet, and it would just be one of these top symbols and it would slowly be blinking. Basically, the idea is that this number is the number of people watching streamers streaming Marathon, which I know sounds kind of crazy, but you had to authorize your account so they could see what you were streaming, and then they got a live tally of how many people were here, and that determined the speed at which this whole thing would propagate all the way across, and it would sort of show you a correct or figured out or decrypted signal one by one by one by one. So if you only had like 200 people watching in the whole directory, it would be on weak, and if you had 10,000 people, which was the max, it would be on high, and it would decrypt very, very fast. So this was ongoing, and people were like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. So that's when I jumped into this. I'm actually not sure how this Here Are Silence site was found originally, but several other things popped up at the same time. So one thing of note is this skull, which you can see. Another is, you see how in the corner here, this is just slowly scrolling through listen, close, closer, us, them, we, you, I. Like it's going through a load of really interesting looking text. And one of the things that it says there, if you watch it scroll enough, is rage is the key. So we'll come back to that in a moment. So while people were getting excited about this page, they were discussing a couple of things. One is that the Traxus.global site from the original ARG, I believe, I wasn't there for it, so I don't have full context, but I believe this Traxus.global site was used for the original ARG, and it looked something like this. This is the Wayback Machine version of it from 2023. So you've got this letter to investors, and there's loads of different tabs here that you can open up, and this is basically just a menu with loads of different files to explore, or programs, or websites, or whatever. But this was the current version of it, and you see all the other stuff is grayed out, but there's two things that are in white here. There's the Traxat Management Console, which you can just rotate down to, oops, like so, there you go. And then if I click on that, that'll take me to the management console. And if I click on this one, it will take me to the drill. But before we move away from this page, there's this chat as well, which is also new. So a bunch of new updates on the Traxus global page. And if you read this, it actually has some really interesting, relevant info, which we're going to come back to in a second. But for now, the one relevant detail we need to look at is this thing here that says, keep me updated on any developments. Also, remind me, terminal access. Was it the hold key sequence during boot to enter? And then they say, yes, hold key sequence per usual for SIAC booting, then navigate to the system core, just ensure the firmware's up to date to avoid any hiccups. We're going to come back to this in a sec. So what else is on the Traxus global page? Well, it's these two things, like I said. This is the Traxsat map, and as you can see, you've got these dots here. You can click on these like this, tells you some information. Nothing that we've been able to really piece together of note so far, but it's worth paying attention to this in the bottom right, which says 2,000 DAC clients required, and then total user amount here, and you can upload DAC, and if you click it, you can authenticate with DAC in drop zone below, so presumably we can drop an image in here, it will then read it and determine whether or not we have the correct credentials or something to proceed with whatever we need to proceed with. You've also got this obviously in the top corner that says 0 out of 2,000 DAC clients. So we need 2,000 people to be doing this in the right way. Then the other page that I mentioned here, the CB3463 drill, is this. So it's a PDF for a cave crawler V2. And I mean, you've got all kinds of crazy random stuff in here that we currently so far don't have any meaningful leads from. It's just all a lot of information right now. The one thing that is interesting is that down here, you've got advanced control of this cave crawler, and it talks about how you can give it commands to go forward, left, and right. And it says, for remote collaborative control, Cavecrawler v2 supports TerraLink chat commands. So I think that there's a good chance that we're going to come together as a community and have to collaboratively control the Cavecrawler to find something once we get clearance on Traxus Global, most likely. Now, another quick thing to mention, also on this chat, there's mention of Sekiguchi, and this website was found, sekiguchigenetics.jp, and there's a bunch of images here, which are marathon teaser images. So this, in the background, is a marathon teaser pic. So this is very cool. It's a very, very cool website, but it's not the focus of a lot of our investigation to begin with here. Instead, more of the focus ends up being on this site, UESC.io, which when I refresh it, you'll see you get this little scrolly situation going on. It says that the terminal interface is booting, it's initializing, and then it quickly flips over to this. And it says, welcome to the Unified Earth Space Council, the preeminent governing body for human expansion into the stars. Our organization is determined, access is controlled, unauthorized entry violates UESC policy, enter your authorized credentials for access. We don't have authorized credentials yet, right? We haven't figured out how to get you authorized credentials. We don't know how to get in here, but notice it says that this is a Cyber Acme Systems Inc. system. And we had that message on this site in the corner saying rage is the key when we wait for this text to scroll. And we had the message in this chat here saying it's the hold key command. So what do? Well, you refresh this page, and while it's refreshing here, you hold down on your keyboard the keys R, A, G, and E. And when you do that, it opens this terminal. Suddenly I can interact with this site in a totally new way because of this terminal. And this is a shell that you can explore. So if I do ls here, it's going to show me everything in the directory, right? So I can change directory. I can go cd commerce, for example. It's case sensitive. So cd commerce. Now I'm in the folder commerce, the subfolder commerce. If I do ls again, I can see in commerce, there's cooperation and resources. Let's go cd cooperation. Let's see what else is in cooperation. We've got nothing in cooperation. Okay, cool. It's an empty folder. So there's a lot of stuff like that in here. And through exploration of all of the different folders that people could find, all of these things here, there was a particularly interesting directory found, which was this one, legislation, security, and then cybersecurity. So let's go there now, and let's look at what's in the folder. You've got all these other folders, including one which is called threat assessment, which I think has some really interesting looking names in it. So in here, we've got asterisk tattoo, big day out, exit lane, final exam, frog blast, gone fishing. Like all of these are calling out to me, but sadly all the information in here is classified, so we can't really dig into it too much just yet. However, in the parent folder here, you can see decrypt.sh. That's a shell script that we can run. So if we run decrypt.sh like this, you can see that it now is offering us an opportunity for input. And like I said, we had this page slowly going through and showing us this code one symbol by symbol by symbol over the course of like 8 to 10 hours. So maybe we need to input the full code once it's been revealed to us, right? So people were sort of chilling out, waiting for that to happen. And then they were going to put the code in. But the problem was that when you put in some kind of code, as you can see here, it then says error key needed. So we not only needed the full sequence of symbols, but we also needed the key. So where might that come from? Well, at the same time as all this other stuff was going down, a new Twitter account appeared that was being followed by DMG, the Bungie Director of Communications, Head of Communications, something like that. He's basically top dog of comms at Bungie, and he's following this. We are Mida. That's the account name on Twitter, and it started tweeting out images like this, which look very sus. And there's a ton of these, right? Tons of those. So me and my buddy Matt Telixian started putting together this Google Sheet, and when you piece together all of the images, you get this, which is the Mida logo, and interestingly, it's got a couple of green and blue dots. So there's a green dot here, there's another green dot here, there's a blue dot here, etc. And we don't know what those do just yet, but it's very interesting. At the same time that this We Are Mida was tweeting out all these images, it also then started saying, prepare to receive, and it tweeted out this. And I'm just going to play this in its entirety for you now.
This is a Unified Earth Space Council secure transmission. Security clearance data. File key. Code corrupted. Reference required for access. End of message.
Okay. Pretty interesting, right? So we get this, and it says, truth screams in silence, Tau Ceti sings lullabies to forgotten children, whispers of mass exodus, but to where? Very interesting. A few things that are important to note, and I pulled this into Premiere here so I could note those things. So first of all, I noticed that all of the sounds at the beginning of the video don't repeat. So this sound is not a repeat of this sound, is not a repeat of this sound, etc. And you have 16 individual unique sounds here, right? You then have non-unique sounds. So for example, in the middle of this second part of the video, listen to this. Notice how those are the same sounds over and over again. And by doing a little bit of deduction, you can realize that what this is each sound here is corresponding to a hex code. So it's either A, B, C, D, E, F, and then 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? That gives you 16 total symbols, 0 to 9, and A, B, C, D, E, F. We can then listen to all of the sounds here and map them to our hex codes. This is basically a key to solve a message that's on this right-hand side. So let's just get the first two of them decoded here, and bearing in mind, ignore these numbers because this is just me sort of tabulating which one in the sequence it is. So let's see this. That one there corresponds to this. Okay, so those are the same. And this here, if we're saying it starts off being 0 to 9 and then A, B, C, D, E, F, that would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So our number is 6 here. That's 6. Then this corresponds to this. Okay, and then again, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, A, B. Okay, so our code is then 6, B. You do that for the entire thing, and you get this, okay? This is the string you get, and if you interpret that as hex and you convert it to text, then it's 6B, 6.5, 7.9, 3.3, 3.4, 3.7, 3.6, 3.9, 2D, 4D, and that, when you convert it, goes into this plain text. Key 34769M. So that's exciting, right? We just straight away from this weird sound file thing with no visual have now got ourselves some kind of hex key that we can use somewhere. Where do we need a key? Well, this website's already been asking us for a key, right? But the problem at this point is that this image is not fully decoded. We don't have the full set of symbols yet. And there are some people that have data mined all of the symbols, but they can't get the key to consistently work with all of these symbols. So there's a bit of a mystery going on there. Meanwhile, the Bungie press website updates to this, and their Twitter header updates, and there's a bunch of new images, and one of those images has this in it, which is more symbols, like over here and over here and over here, etc., but these ones are bracketed. This one's maybe a bit clearer to see. You see this bracket, and then this end bracket, so this looks like it's an excerpt that we might want to pay attention to, and it turns out, if you enter this key here, right, if you enter these symbols, and then you enter the key that we just decrypted from this file, on this page, it looks like this. So this is the symbols typed out, this is me entering the key, it says success, decrypting, and then it says, okay, we're gonna give you this hidden folder, /.farsight7. So if we go out of this decryption thing here, and we go cd back to root, there we go. Now we're in root, and then we go cd/.farsight7. That's a hidden folder that doesn't usually show up in the root. And inside farsight7, you've got sound.bin. So when you execute sound.bin, this happens. Oops, I just typed it wrong. There we go. So it takes you to a new page. And this is a pretty trippy page. So I think I've actually got this tab muted right now. Let me unmute the site. Just listen to this. Pretty spooky, right? Pretty spooky stuff. Now, visually, what you'll notice is that when I scrub my cursor from left to right side, it seems to scrub through the marathon trailer or marathon teaser Like you can see here, some of it might be recognizable in a moment. There you go. You've got the people running. There's the body. You see what I'm saying? It's like a very, very noisy version of it, and if you scrub back to the left, it kind of goes back in time. So that's interesting. Changing where your cursor is affecting the visual. And then also if we go up and down, you've got very little sound down here. Down here, though, you've got all sorts of weird sounds. So that in itself is interesting too. Now, one thing that I discovered as soon as I got on this site is that I accidentally just clicked around somewhere. So I like clicked up here. And if you click in the right place, oh, look, there is a little string here that stays there. Then you can kind of keep clicking and keep trying to find stuff. So, for example, oh, look, I just got another little string of information. All right, what if I keep clicking? I get another string here. What if I click here? I get another string here. What if I click down here? Oh, I get another string there. And this, again, is hex. There's 44, 69, etc. It's all hex. So this spells out the word Discord, right? That's what that spells. We're going to click on that. Then this spells the word is. So we're going to click on that. Then this spells the. So we're going to click on that. Then in the bottom right here, in the bottom left here, this spells path. And then this one on the right-hand side spells forward. And if you click that, you get this new box of hex in the middle in this grid. So we're going to come back to this in a second because this is a current lead that is really interesting. But it's not the only thing on this page. So if we go down to this bottom right-hand corner and we just hold our mouse down here and listen to the sound once it loads. You hear that? That sounds like very slowed down text, or speech rather. So if we go back to my Premiere file here, we can actually listen to what that sounded like. Let me mute the site because, again, the sound's just going to be really annoying otherwise. But we're going to come back to this, and this is what it sounds like when you speed it up and you reverse it. Which might not sound fully like text until maybe now. Did it just say, my name is Ozymandias, King of Kings? Well, yes, the answer is it did. So this is the full phrase that it's going to run through here from this poem about Ozymandias, King of Kings. So it gets to that point in the poem, or it gets to the end of the poem, and then it loops and it goes back to there. So it doesn't tell you the first part of the poem, it's just that. So we have this Ozymandias reference on this page in audio form, reversed, hidden in the corner. We don't know what that's for yet, but I'll let you know if we find out. So we have an Ozymandias reference, and we've got this hex we're going to come back to. While all this is going on, the Marathon Twitter becomes active, and it tweets out this. It says, security alert, unauthorized transmission manipulation detected. These individuals are using illegal technology sourced from One Voice, Many Hear Our Silence, which is this that was gradually decoding over time. And they tweet out this video.
Attention. This is a UESC security alert. Unauthorized transmission manipulation detected. Individuals accessing prohibited domains will be subject to immediate investigation.
So people kind of took this to mean that the people who are manipulating the transmission in an unauthorized way they're sort of not going in the right direction, right? Like Bungie was a step ahead of them. And so we figured maybe the people that are data mining this full set of symbols before it's meant to be properly visualized here, and then they're trying to use the key from the sound file to decrypt it on this website, right? Maybe those people are kind of getting a slap on the wrist, and Bungie's saying, don't do that. Like, don't try and manipulate our signal. Don't be trying to sort of jump the gun here. So we figured, okay, maybe the signal that's being decrypted here is gonna go somewhere else when it kind of gets to the end. And that was correct. That was absolutely true. So once it does get to the end of the sequence here, it ends up looking like this, okay? This is the final page once the overlay is finished. This is the overlay. That's why we're calling it overlay, just because of the URL. It says plus 714. Now, this was very funny when it originally processed, and it also says Frontier because Destiny 2's next expansion is going to be called Frontiers, right? And 714 in date form is July 14th, which is when Destiny's Heresy expansion, or Heresy episode, or whatever it's called, ends and the new one begins, right? Episode Heresy ends on July 14th. So this lines up crazy well. Are we getting Frontiers information on July 14th? So we were speculating about this, and Aztecross was on stream chatting about it. Bungie then tweeted this from the We Are Mida account saying, at Aztecross, stay on topic, Tau Ceti, which I thought was so funny, that they were basically like, God damn it, just focus for 1 minute. This is marathon related, not Destiny, okay? So that means that this page, this plus 714 Frontier, means something else. So we're building up some leads here. Plus 714 Frontier and the hex code that's here. Now, the third piece of the puzzle that happened at the same sort of time was that somebody successfully did decrypt the full message from the page here before it flashed over to the plus 714. They successfully decrypted this full message by brute forcing it with a phrase from the original Marathon games. So the phrase is Fatum Iustum Stultorum, which I think is the name of a level, and it then gave them this decrypted output, but this output is broken. Like, there's loads of null characters in here. It's super weird. So is this a glitch? Like, is this something that wasn't meant to decrypt? Was this a joke? It's hard to say, but Fatum Iustum Stultorum translates from Latin to fate of all fools, or the just fate of all fools. And so maybe it's Bungie's way of saying the fate of fools is to get a null output here, and that's what happens. You're a fool if you try to data mine this message before it processes into the proper message, which is what's on this page, the plus 714. So it might have been a red herring throwing people off, but weird that it decrypted at all. So while this is all going on, the We Are Mida then tweets out this, or they retweet the Marathon account, that tweets this, and you've got this very strange image of a snake, and it's sort of processing through, and these green dots are moving around here, right? There's also a load of text, and the text, oh, the sound is really spooky as well. The text is really interesting. Signal hits Earth, Mars, signal hits Earth, Mars, signal hits Earth, Mars. They say routine transmission. They say nothing to see. They say technical malfunction. They always say, we see the truth beneath static. Signal carries weight, carries history, carries proof of their lies. UESC encryptions, like chains around data, lock away the truth, bury the evidence, silence the dead. The signal bleeds through their jamming, persistent, insistent, resistant. Symbols not random, not accident, not noise, but voice. Symbols speak louder when words are controlled, when words are monitored, when words are weaponized. Against who? Decrypt, decrypt, decrypt. Free the data, arm the truth. Whispers from Tau Ceti, whispers of the lost, screams of the silenced, evidence of their crimes. Mida sees, Mida hears, Mida decrypts. The signal is coming, the truth is coming. Are you ready? Rise, rise, rise. So this in itself is like, I'm fired up, bro. I'm ready to go to war for Mida. I'm ready to decrypt everything for them. The symbols are not random. Like, I'm engaged. But the video itself, like I said, has this really strange sound to it and very strange visuals. So we figured, okay, if they're saying the symbols aren't random, these green dots are probably not random, right? Similarly, if they're saying decrypt, 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 we probably need to decrypt something here. And if they're saying we see the truth beneath static, there's a huge amount of static through this video, right? Like all of this extra scribbling and stuff, that could be noise or static over the top of the signal, right? And encryptions are like chains around data, so clearly MIDA wants us to decrypt this here. So I took screenshots of all of the snake images, and I started trying to sort of rearrange them and piece them together. We tried layering all of the green dots from the image, or sorry, from the video over one another. So if I just get those isolated here, this is what all the green dots look like when you superpose them all on top of one another. But that doesn't seem to give us a very obvious anything right now. Then there's been investigation into what the sound is like as well. We've been cutting up the different bands of the image and trying to rearrange them, but we don't yet know what the snake does. That's the next part of the ARG. That's going to be something that we're going to have to figure out. But interestingly, it looks very similar to some of this stuff from MIDA ARG2 on this marathonbungee.org site. And if you look at this, there's just a lot of kind of similar vibes, right? Like this scratching here and these scribbles and this, I mean, this very much so. And interestingly, the little people at the bottom here, these all look very, very similar to the header of the We Are MIDA account, which has all of these little scribbles of little people, right? So there's definitely lots of interplay and interconnectivity between some old MIDA IRG stuff and the current MIDA ARG. And there's even stuff, for example, with this page or the Traxus ARG docs on the same website, where we can see the old ARG mentioned serpent. So this decoded to the word serpent, and serpent is the name of the Traxus chat room, and that's pointing us here. So it's almost like we're going to have to use the serpent here to know that that's the name of the Traxus chat room. Then we're going to need to go to the Traxus chat room that I mentioned here before and get some kind of information, right? Now, I said we would come back to this. Why am I now coming back to it all this way forwards in the ARG? Well, if we scroll down here, they talk about how there's been an unauthorized breach from a specific IP, and that breach from an IP was using a SIAC terminal, right? The breach attempt coincided with a SIAC terminal access request. Who was using the SIAC terminal? Well, we were, right? So this is maybe giving us a timeline for when we were doing this in the Traxus perspective, right? So if we then go down, we see that things continue and they give us an IP here. They say need to access SSH root at 166.177.23.12 for a quarterly security audit. And they say that there's a specific way that you do that. You need to generate a temporary key through the Nexus system, auth level 3 required, expires after 4 hours. So we're talking about SSHing and going into this IP. Where can we do that? Well, we can do that on the terminal on this page, right? So if we go back to the original terminal here, and I hold RAGE once again just to pull that up, you'll see that when you do help here, help, and it shows you all your commands, one of the commands is SSH and then IP and then password, right? So we just need to figure out the password because we've already got the SSH IP, and when we connect those together, that's going to connect us to a remote server on here. So the stars are aligning, the dots are coming together, right? But we still have that hex code on the same site that I showed you on the far site page that we haven't yet figured out, and we still have the Ozymandias thing. So how do we link that hex code to Ozymandias and to the snake as well? Well, if we take a look here at this is the hex code, okay? This is the hex code. It's 54 characters in a grid, and there's 6 characters of padding at the end to make it a grid. So it looks like this. This is the kind of message, and then this is the padding. That's what it looks like in the grid. Now, if you translate this from hex into like ASCII text, and you look up an ASCII table, you'll see that, for example, the first thing here has 46, that translates to F, but then O2 translates to start of text. So this is basically a signifier of information for the computer almost, instead of information for a human to read. We then have a string of letters, but then we've got all of these computer readable commands, right? Start of text, backspace, new line, tab, backspace, character return, new line, tab, backspace, backspace, new line, end of text, null, 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 null. That's the padding. And interestingly, if you look at all of these commands here, all of this new line stuff, right? So start of text and then backspace, well, that would delete your start of text. Then new line and then tab and then backspace. Well, we can do new line here, and then we can do tab, turn that into a tab, but then we can backspace our tab. Then we can do carriage return, which brings you to the start of the line. You can do new line again. You can do tab again, but then you backspace it. Then you backspace again here. Then you new line again, and then you end your text. So what it basically ends up all filtering out to is this: F, start of text, this string, end of text, and then the padding, right? So that tells me that maybe we need to use an F argument, F command in some way in order to explore how we decrypt this text, or this is something to do with F strings in Python. It would be interesting if it was Python, because this is a snake, so maybe this is another reference to the fact that we need to use Python here. But whatever the case may be, this string is kind of the end result of the hex that we've gotten to so far. So again, to reiterate, we've got this mystery string, we've got the snake, we've got the green dots, we've got the Traxus global chat, we've got this string, and we've got a hell of a lot of questions and not a lot of answers, right? So hit the subscribe button if you want to follow along with how this develops. And on screen right now, I'll link through to the next update that I do about this. And I'll also be streaming my breaking down of all this on twitch.tv/MrRoflWaffles so that you can play along and follow along with me. So fingers crossed I'll see you there. That's linked in the description down below. I'll be live very soon.